Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for our fourth virtual admission event. Today's theme is Finding Your Purpose, and I promise you, we've saved one of the best for last. My name is Jonathan Latta, and I'm the Interim Executive Director for Undergraduate Admission, and it's been a real treat to spend these last few weeks creating and developing and sharing with you these wonderful virtual events. And as I said, this one's going to be really special. We've brought together today a group of friends, some faculty members, as well as two alums that worked with these faculty members so that they can share their combined memories and the experiences they had at Pacific just for you. I'd now like my colleagues to introduce themselves. Ruth?
Hi. Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Ruth Britton, and I'm Program Director for Music Education in the Conservatory. So I work with all the musicians who are going to be music teachers.
Hi, I'm Andrew Liu. I'm a music teacher at Hart Middle School in Pleasanton, California, where I teach band, orchestra, and choir.
Hi, I'm Louisa Macedo, and I'm the Community Engagement Officer for the Stockton Economic Empowerment Demonstration.
Hi, I'm Dr. Courtney Lehman, and I've been teaching in the English department for the last 22 years, and I'm also the director of the Powell Scholars Program.
So let's start off with Andrew and Louisa. Let's talk about when you graduated. How long ago was that?
Not even a year ago, spring 2019.
Right, spring 2019.
So you graduated at the same time?
Correct. We were in the same class of Powell Scholars.
Excellent. So that wasn't too long ago. So maybe we'll start with you and find out, Louisa, what brought you to Pacific since it wasn't that long ago that you remember?
Right. Well, I came to Pacific because I knew I wanted a small school experience where you feel like you are home the second you step on campus. And that's exactly what I felt when I visited for my Powell Scholars interview. I immediately felt like this was my home. And since joining the Pacific community, I've always felt supported. And I feel like this is home for good.
Wonderful. Andrew?
I came to Pacific because I knew that Pacific had a very, very strong music education program and a very historic conservatory of music. And I also came because it was the most financially sound decision for my family.
Ruth, can you tell us about the first time you met Andrew?
Well, I had Andrew in class from the time he was a freshman, and even as a first year, I was just so struck by his curiosity, his creativity. Anytime I would put out an idea or a method or an approach or a resource, he would eat that up and then want more. He always wanted to go further and find out more. And so that drive and that intellectual curiosity, that creativity, I just saw that go through his entire career here. He was creating new activities, new ensembles. He was getting into summer conducting workshops. He was doing all kinds of things to just get the most out of his experience at Pacific. And I just love that.
Thank you. Courtney, you had the experience in a unique way to work with both Louisa and Andrew. Can you tell us about the times that you met both of them?
Yes, well, I met both Louisa and Andrew 2 years ago now for their junior and senior years in the Powell Scholars Program at Pacific. And what struck me about both of them in different ways is that both Louisa and Andrew are go-getters. They are the very definition of a voracious approach to learning. What struck me was the tenacity of their sense of purpose, their commitment to interdisciplinary learning, and their willingness to embrace something much greater than themselves. And I think that's what makes them so incredibly special, and they're both citizens of this great state of California and our great city of Stockton, which is amazing.
Well, tell us more about that. So Courtney referenced that you happen to do some work here in Stockton. What is it that you do right now specifically after you graduated?
Yes, so after I graduated, I joined the SEED team, which is the Stockton Economic Empowerment Demonstration. We are the nation's first mayor-led guaranteed income demonstration. A lot of people know us as the $500 a month for 125 families for 18 months. We are testing out whether an influx of cash can help stabilize people's lives in an economy that typically just does not work for many people. And so that's what I do out in the community. I started working in Stockton, interning, joining local campaigns while I was here at Pacific.
And what was it while being at Pacific that gave you the seed, no pun intended, to think that it was a good idea to work in our community?
Right, I think Pacific really teaches you to think critically about your role in the world, whether it's through our PAX courses or discussions with your teachers. So more so than the curriculum that you are going through, you are taught to be a citizen of the world and think about who you are and what you can contribute. And that's how I've approached my work in the community, the Stockton community, is truly thinking critically about who I am and what I can do for people rather than feeding my own ego. It's been about what do people actually need instead of giving them an antidote. It's them telling me what they need and working towards that. And that's something that Pacific instilled in me very early on.
Thank you. Andrew, same questions for you. What specifically do you enjoy about the work you do as a middle school teacher? And how did Pacific set you up for that sort of work?
Yeah, so every day I work with about 200 middle school students, 2 bands, a string orchestra, and 3 choirs. And every day I try and bring them the kind of music education experience that I had. I often joke that I majored in being a band nerd. And going through middle school and high school, I fell in love with music, and I think the music education is so important, not just intellectually, in terms of aesthetic valuing, but also the community and the non-intellectual kind of teaching that brings them social and emotional kind of learning that happens in the music classroom. And so I really work every day to create an environment for students to grow in all these different ways. And Pacific has really prepared me for teaching in the public school system and just music in general through the very intensive curriculum. We have so much field work. We have amazing discussions in our seminars about music education and learning psychology. Yeah.
So Ruth, can you maybe add a bit about how our commitment to experiential learning is so evident in the classroom and in the students' experience?
Oh, I'd love to. We really value the program being very real. I think what sets our program and the university apart is that it's not just a bunch of theory that someday we'll apply to real life. It's real life from the get-go. We have people out into the community, out into schools early on. Lots of experience. By the time they're graduated, they're already in the teaching field. They already look like veteran teachers because they've been out so much. I think we are uniquely positioned in Stockton and in this area, frankly, because we have such a diverse community. We have rural schools and urban schools and suburban schools, all within a 20-minute drive. And so our students of our program, but also the entire university, can benefit from all those segments of society just right here. So Stockton, this area of California, is not cookie cutter. It's not boring. It's not samey. There's a lot of ways to find opportunities and to explore those and to develop that purpose and that passion from the beginning. So,
thank you. Courtney, anything to add?
Oh, just that I would say that experiential learning takes so many different forms at Pacific. I've been taking students to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival for the last 22 years in the fall and the spring of every year, and that has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. But beyond that, I do think for the number of undergraduate research projects that I supervise, we are allowing students at the undergraduate level to perform at graduate level capacity. And that's pretty extraordinary. So for me, that's the real difference at Pacific. It's not only, to me, there's this moment, there's this switch that goes off where you realize that your individual talents can only take you so far. And that it's the social application, the communal application of those talents that really matters. And so I think that's what our students embody more than anything else, is that strong sense of community.
Lisa, what do you think? Did you have a moment when you were interacting with a faculty member, either Courtney or maybe another one, that really set that spark in motion for some of the things you were going to do?
I've had plenty of those at Pacific, yeah. One that comes to mind is my sophomore year, my second year here at Pacific. I was just sitting in a classroom with some colleagues, and one of them said, "Hey, have you heard of this Mayor Michael Tubbs guy?" And faculty members stepped in, encouraged me to get an internship, helped me write the email, helped me send follow-ups, and that same faculty member helped me get internships in Sacramento, and other internships and campaigns that I've joined since have been really catalyzed by that first moment where that faculty member never for a second doubted that I could step outside of the campus and challenge myself in ways that possibly I would never have done elsewhere.
And that's led you to the work you're doing right now.
Correct. I stepped off campus, joined the community, and I've stuck there since, yeah.
Andrew, did you have one of those kind of spark moments in a class that really impacted you and that set you on a path towards what you're doing now?
Yeah, my senior year I took senior block, which is for music education. And among other things in that class, we were tasked to develop our music education philosophy and what our roles as a teacher were. And there was this one lesson, or one series of lessons that Dr. Hammer, who was teaching that class, gave us called Teach Long and Prosper, where he went beyond just music education and said, you know, these are the things that you have to look out for when you are a teacher and you are aiming for financial stability and working towards retirement. You know, talking about your income, rent, how health insurance works, all these kinds of things. And it was an example of not just teaching the music student or the musician in the student, but teaching the whole student. And I think that's a key part of what my music education philosophy is not just talking about music, but just being a great person in general.
Can you tell us more, Ruth, about that, our approach to the whole student teaching? I think that's something that all our faculty are committed to.
Yes, I think so. And I think Andrew just said it so well, that you're really trying to help people find their own purpose, their own mission in life, where they want to make the world a better place. That sounds kind of Pollyanna and naive, I guess, but I think that really is at the core, that we're here, we want to have a purpose, we want to make a difference. And how do we look inside and see our own talents and interests, and then how do we build on the strengths of our colleagues, our peers, our families, our community, so that you can really make the world a better place. So I don't care if it sounds Pollyanna or naive, that really is at the core of our quality. And I think that's why the university and the conservatory has such a long-lasting tradition of excellence. I think that's been in place since the time this place was founded. I mean, for this to be the charter university, to have been founded just 2 years after the gold rush, I mean, that's uncommon. Most societies back in that day and time, the community would exist for 20 years before a university would be built. And that happened in 2 years. I think people really saw that education was important, evidence-based was important. It's not just, oh, it seems to me. I'm not just going to make stuff up. Education is important. Music is important. And so I think all of that is at our core.
Thank you. Courtney, you have a phrase that I've now stolen since I've heard it. So if you could tell us a little bit more about your principles of our education being student-driven and how that leads to purpose.
Yeah, there's a real difference between Pacific's ethos for undergraduate students in particular and most other universities, because every place you go via college or university will tell you that they're student-centered. We expect that. That's the minimum. At Pacific, we're student-driven, which means that students sit on all of our hiring committees. They make decisions about faculty tenure. They're out in the community leading initiatives. So I can't say enough about this idea that we are student driven, and that means that students are in charge of their education. They're not just wanting it, they're steering it. And that's so very important, because that is very unique to Pacific, to just have the faculty kind of sit back and allow that potential to unfold. It's just extraordinary to me. So, and that's because we're committed to a student-driven education.
Do you agree with that, Louisa?
Of course, yes. Myself being on several tenure committees, being part of student government as well, seeing all those hiring committees that Dr. Lehman spoke of, students definitely have a voice here that I would be hard-pressed to find another university that allows students as much influence and decision-making power over their own education.
And then what was it both in the classroom, but more specifically outside the classroom, that might have provided you the ability to even drive harder and faster?
I just think the no hesitation when you want to do something. If you talk to a faculty member about doing undergraduate research, without hesitation, they're like, all right, let's get you set up. I know this person, and they just happen to be Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals judges, and you have their personal email addresses now. If you want to go do some internships, there's never a question of, oh, you have a tough workload, so let's just hang back a little bit this semester. It's no, let's make this work, and here are all the academic supports that we can provide you in order for you to get those internships, in order for you to get those community service experiences that require, that you would like to take on. And so just knowing that you have the support and like undying support of your faculty members, they are going to get it to work for you. It just really drove me to take on more than I had ever imagined.
What's the word we don't usually use, Courtney? We don't usually say the word no, is what you taught me.
Oh, that's right. No,
you
I
taught
would
me
say
that we don't usually say no
yes,
around here.
Yes, I would just add to that yeah, in addition to being student-driven, the answer at Pacific is always yes. We may not know the how,
Yeah.
but it's always a yes.
It's never been done before, but we'll figure it out.
We're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Thank you, yeah. And Andrew, I know that you had a set of experiences outside the classroom. Maybe you want to share one or two of them that really kept you inspired while you were here.
I don't know any other place where a student could go up to the dean and say, I want to start a new ensemble, and I want to host a 9-day new music festival, and have the dean say yes without really any hesitation, and commit the manpower and the financial need to back such an intensive project. And so, I was fortunate enough to be able to found 2878, new music ensemble here in the conservatory, and we were able to perform several times, including host a new music festival that included a bunch of guest artists, as well as collaborations between faculty and students in performance.
Great, thanks. Ruth, a moment ago you spoke so aptly, and both you and Andrew did, about the opportunities for our students to take those in-class and co-curricular outside of the class opportunities and have them do good in our community. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that specifically looks like?
Well, in our program, we have very tight relationships with the teachers in the area, and I think this is true of many parts of the university. There are very close ties between the professors and people in the community. That's why these internships that Louisa was speaking of can occur. In music education specifically, they're out observing specialists in the schools, teachers who have that real music specialty. They see a variety of them. They get their own classes that they get to teach. There's a range of ages. One semester you might be working with kindergartners in a school where most of the students' English is not their first language. The next semester you might be conducting a very wonderful high school orchestra or choir or band. Another semester you might be doing electronic music or focusing on composition. There's a lot of variety, and we try to do it in a very developmentally appropriate way. I also think it's very important that in knowing the students that we have many personality types. These folks are I guess, pretty extroverted, maybe you'd say, you know, real go-getters and not afraid to jump in there. But there's all different personality types. Some people are a little quieter. They might like to survey the situation a bit more before they step in. And I think the faculty are excellent at reading those different personality types, those different ways of approaching things. And they're able to find that quality way that's going to work with that student. It's not that we try to make everybody be the same. It's how do we help you be the best that you can be in your philosophy with your purpose.
Thank you. Courtney, to add on a bit, you mentioned trips like the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, but how about in our region, experiencing what we do in either service or co-curricular activities that you've either led or seen us do that really take the Northern California region and expose our students to it in unique ways?
Yeah, there are so many wonderful things we've had the opportunity to do with the Pell Scholars Program in particular, but also in my classes more broadly. One of which is the field trip to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, where we actually do stage combat and all kinds of other historically specific practices, which is really, really fun. But we also go to the San Francisco Opera. Many students haven't seen an opera before. Geez, I hadn't, seen one before I brought my students. And that's a rare opportunity to see some of the great singers, one of our great conductors, and to just be exposed to a different way of life, an urban feel, and this vast collection of talent that we have in San Francisco. But then we go up to the community theater in Sacramento. We go out into the community. Reach Out and Read was a project that we did in my Shakespeare class, where we created children's stories adapted from Shakespeare's plays and went into medical waiting rooms where kids, often second language learners, were waiting for treatment and were very anxious about that. And we went in and we read these adaptations of Shakespeare's plays to them, and also modeled for their parents the importance of literacy and learning, and for me, the importance of Shakespeare in our lives, all of us.
That's an incredible program. That's just wonderful. Louisa, what surprised you most during your educational journey?
About myself? Yeah. I think I surprised myself many ways throughout Pacific. I think I became a more extroverted person, as you might say. I used to think that I was just in the background, paper pusher type of bureaucrat, and that was going to be my career. And then coming to Pacific, I was challenged to envision myself in a different light as like an innovator, or someone who, when something is wrong, they take it and they run with it and try to fix it. And so I think I developed as a human being for sure at Pacific, and I think that thoroughly surprised me. When you asked that question prior, I reflected on who I was as a first-year student, and I was like, oh, she was so quiet and shy, and she would never take a job if she didn't know what it meant, But that's what I did as soon as I graduated, and so I think I was surprised by how much Pacific changed me, as like the deepest parts of me, how much that changed.
Great, thank you. So Andrew, Louisa mentioned innovation, and in this time we're in right now, as a teacher, you've probably been forced to innovate and change and adjust your approach. Maybe, what about the Pacific education helped you be resilient and ready for such challenges that we're facing today?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our music education program is not just your traditional band, orchestra, and choir. We also talk a lot about music technology and about what we call kitchen sink programs like AP Music Theory or like a mariachi program. And so when we're out in the field, we have all these different skills that we can draw from and all these different experiences. A lot of the things that we talked about in our music technology discussions, such as like Soundtrap and Flat.io or whatever programs, are now programs and lessons that I am bringing to my students. And we're still talking very much about the sequencing of learning in music education and how students take in information. And so instead of doing that live, now it's done in a video or in a PowerPoint presentation for my students to learn asynchronously.
So the elements of both having to innovate and change, but also be resilient.
Right.
You know, because your students aren't looking for you to give up on them, even though the teaching just got twice as hard. And you're ready for it, it appears to me.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's ready for it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, I want to start with the faculty first, so maybe Ruth, how do you hope that both your students and yourself make a difference in the world?
I think making a difference in the world is really just day by day, in little ways and big ways, making people better, making them find their good, sweet self, their powerful self, and acting on that further. I mean, that's why I love teaching at the university, because in my particular position, I get to go out and work with people from all ages, all walks of life, and then I get to work with all the university students who get to do that too. So I feel like the good deeds that we do, the good work that we do, it just explodes over time. Often in quiet little ways, but it makes for a big impact over the long term. So, you know, every day trying to be musical. Every time I make music, trying to make it as musical as good as it can be. And in every action with a person, trying to be as genuine and as caring, demanding. Not caring doesn't mean letting somebody just skate by and not be their best, but in the best way trying to help them be their best person.
Thank you. Courtney, same question.
Yeah, I would just echo that. Our students, Louisa, Andrew, are game changers. And for me, teaching at Pacific is so important because it enables students to tell their own stories. So, and this is the broader purpose I see in teaching Shakespeare as well. It's all about narrative and how we construct our relationship to history and context and so forth. But you can't change the script of the future until you can tell your own story. And I think that's what we do at Pacific, and that's what Shakespeare does for all of us.
Louisa, now that you've graduated not too long ago and you're ready to launch into the world, or you're already there in my understanding, how do you plan to make a difference?
It's hard to say. I am only 22. But I think I have been given the tools to do some critical thinking about my role in the world, as I was mentioning before. But I think my place in the world, my goal for the future, making the world a better place, starts with challenging the status quo. So what is happening right now, and why is it happening right now? Can it be improved? And often the answer is yes. Am I going to be the one to do it? And often the answer should be yes. As I learned at Pacific, there's no such thing as no. And so that's how I plan to move forward in my career, with that perspective and that view of myself.
Perfect. Thank you. And Andrew.
Well, I'm just going to keep teaching every day, and in some form or another, it might not always be with middle school students, but as I keep going down this path, just keep on using music to, teach aesthetic valuing and to just hopefully make me and others better people.
Perfect. So I'll ask one final question that I love to close these with. In 2 short sentences, why do you love Pacific? Ruth?
Boundless creativity, and you don't have to stay in a box.
Andrew?
The absolute sense of community. Everyone knows your name, even if you don't. If you never had a certain professor, they happen to know your name too. So, yeah, that tight-knit community.
Thank you. Louisa?
Yeah, echoing what Andrew said, it's not just professors who know your name, it's professors who know you very intimately. They ask about your family. If you miss class, they call you. And so just that sense of community that you're not going to get elsewhere.
And Courtney?
For me, 2 sentences: the students. That's why I'm here.
It's an English teacher.
Thank you so much to all of you for spending this time together. I greatly appreciate and enjoyed our conversation. And I want to thank you for joining us today as well for this final virtual admission session, Finding Your Purpose. Some of you have gotten used to this process, but if this is new to you, You know that you might have a link to a second session now that's a breakout with our faculty members. So when you're done with this session, you'll click off and go to that second link. For some of you may not have it. The reason is we're still hoping that you will apply, and that we're hoping you want to do that as well. You can work with our transfer team member to go ahead and complete that application. All these sessions will be up on our website that we will share with you soon. So don't worry if you missed one of the last couple ones. We'll be able to share those with you as well. At the end of this experience, you'll get an email that offers you a survey. And we do hope that you'll take some time and share some questions and thoughts that you had from this experience or even the other ones that we can help to get back to you and answer those questions for you. We are looking, if you are ready, to have you confirm your enrollment on May 1st. But we totally understand if you'll need more time or want to have more questions answered. But if you're ready, we are, and we hope you'll confirm by May 1st, and if not, we'll be here to help. The last thing is, as this is our last event, this won't be the last time that you have a chance to spend time with us. Please check your email and our website. You'll see multiple opportunities in the coming weeks to discuss with different partners across our campus what it is you might want to know more about Pacific. We have events such as Financial Aid Fridays, campus conversations, and also there'll be time with deans and faculty. So keep an eye out, and we'll have more for you to be able to learn more about Pacific. We're grateful for this time together. We've enjoyed these sessions with all of you. And hey, go Tigers.